Welcome to Nice Ashes. I'm Nate.
And I'm Mike.
Looks
So
like
what are
we
we
got
smoking
another
today?
girthy bastard here tonight, huh?
Yes, we do. We're gonna smoke the Maduro Howitzer.
Yeah, Rocky Patel, the Edge Howitzer. But this is the Maduro, not the Connecticut.
This thing is so girthy that I cannot get my V cut to work on it. I had to do a straight cut, and it was just the tip. Definitely impressive.
Yes,
Well, my first impression is that it's going to be good.
that mirrors mine.
No, it's not sour or tangy or anything weird.
That was fun. Last episode to have a guest on.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. And he missed out on a lot of the political things that have happened over the last couple days. So,
Probably best. We want him
probably
back, don't we?
best. Yeah, we'll have to have him back. Discuss his views on current events.
Yes. This is your reminder to silence your phone.
That was not my phone. Oh, yes, it was. Uh-oh. Well, thank you. Yeah, yes, it was.
Yeah.
I usually don't worry about it because I get my calls and text messages through my computer when my computer's on, so you can't hear them. But if I get
Okay.
a message through Facebook or something, or a lightning strike, then you'll hear it. I'm out of practice
It's all good.
after our dual vacations.
Yeah, so where did you go on vacation?
We went to Wisconsin to
Nice.
go to Rockfest, so that was good. Sarah's more into the metal music than I am, but there was quite a few shows that I enjoyed. Um,
Yeah, I didn't see the full lineup, but some of the bands I wouldn't necessarily classify as metal.
no, some of them were new metal, some of them are just regular rock, but there was some heavy metal,
Yeah.
very heavy metal. Um, all the older bands were very good performances, whether I liked their music or not. But
Well, that's good.
yes, shout out to Cowboys from Hell, by the way. They're a Pantera cover band from Minneapolis that was there, and they were pretty good. So
Oh, okay.
if you see them, I would go watch them.
Okay.
They're they're like all guys in their 50s
Yeah,
doing Pantera covers, but they were really good.
that's awesome.
Yep. They were all in the crowd drinking beers with us and shit. Just chilling. Which, like, I think the singer's wife had a Kia Sorrento that they loaded all their shit into. It's like, of course, they're a cover band. So these guys all have jobs.
Yeah. Well, if they're good at what they do and they're having fun, that's all
Right.
that
Oh yeah,
counts.
they were good.
Anything else you do over in Wisconsin?
We went to the Liney's Lodge because it's right next to Chippewa Falls.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, we went over to the Liney's Lodge, and that was a lot of fun too.
Yep. We
So,
went there once.
Oh yeah, did you have their pretzel?
I don't think so. I don't remember a pretzel.
We had the pretzel, and the mustard had wasabi in it, and it was genuinely hot, which I was
Okay.
very surprised at, because most of the Midwestern
Yeah,
hot stuff
it's
is
Midwestern hot. It's not
yeah,
hot anywhere else.
yeah, but this was like wasabi hot. Uh, it was good. Uh, for those who don't know, I like very hot food occasionally, not like every single day, but Sarah can barely eat my curry even when I really try to not put any spice in it. But I make it Indian hot, as my buddy Raj used to say.
Nice. We'll have to do some curry stuff sometime.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't really follow a recipe. I learned how to cook curry from a couple Nepalese guys that I went to college with. Um, so I just kind of have all the spices and pour it in there, you know.
Yep. Yeah,
Make sure it tastes good.
we do curry burgers every once in a while, and those are really good on the grill.
Curry burgers. Do you put curry paste, curry powder on hamburger or something?
Yeah, when you're mixing it, if you're making a hamburger
Mm,
patty from scratch.
sure. Do you just do the curry powder, or do you do like all of the spices? You know, the garam masala and the cardamom.
Oh, I don't know. I've never made them. I mean, I grill them, but I've
Oh,
never
I
mixed them
see.
up. But I think it's probably just the curry, maybe a few other things, but none of the really fancy stuff. So,
Sure. I always cook with uh, cast iron. I think that's
oh,
part of
okay.
the secret too. You know, so if you I like to cook real low and slow, and cast iron does a really good job at that.
Yep.
So
Yeah, we
I'm
went
a
camping
fan.
last year, and I got to break out my cast iron Dutch oven. So that was a lot of fun.
Nice, nice. Sometime you have to come over and we'll do stir fry.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So I have a cast iron stir fry pan that Sarah got me for Christmas a couple years ago,
Okay.
and it's kind of really nice to be able to make stir fry right at home. But anyway, how was your vacation?
It was good. Just flew back in this early afternoon here, so we were on out to New York City to go see the Music Man on Broadway. We got tickets, I don't know, a little over 2 years ago, and then the pandemic hit and pushed everything back a couple of years. So, but that was our first thing. We landed in Newark Airport, and we went right to Broadway, and it was Hugh Jackman in The Music Man, starring in the title role. So that was pretty exciting to see him, and one of my favorite musicals.
Oh, nice. So is he
But
real or is he a lizard person?
uh, I'm pretty sure he's real. I want to say that for the bits that involved him hanging off the ceiling, they were using wires, but I'm not 100% sure because it looked like he did catch a fly with his tongue, but I don't know. But of course, then after that, we saw pretty much all the sights, but it was middle of the heat wave out there, and it was going to be about 100 again today. So to land and have it be, 72 or 76 or whatever it is, it's really nice.
Yes, I bet. I bet.
But yeah, I guess we were out there for probably 5 days or so, and saw a lot of the sights. And I had been there before, but I got to see a lot of things I didn't see the first time, and got to re-see some things that I did see the first time. So
Good. I you're gonna find this humorous potentially. Sarah didn't. She thought it was a great idea. So I've been vetching for the last 4 or 5 years about how bad modern bowling shoes are, which I had a very narrow issue, right?
yeah,
But even my buddy, I have a really good friend that I bowl with tournaments with. He lives down in the metro, and he works at a very large bowling alley as a manager. And he's got old ass SST fours, which is meaningless the numbers, but he wears the same bowling shoes as he had when we were in high school. And I
okay,
actually wore my bowling shoes I had in high school until 2008, or not 2008, 2018. And the only reason why I got rid of them is because they were in a fire and got destroyed.
okay,
So since 18, I've wore out 3 pairs of bowling shoes. Well, 2 pairs, and the third one. I'm on my third pair now since 18. So I went
yeah,
onto eBay and I've been looking for the last maybe 2 years, and I finally found myself 2 pairs of old school bowling shoes, and
nice.
I'm so excited. I got the first pair in today, and I'm gonna take them in. Uh, they're black and white, like Spats style, the Spats
Okay,
style shoe. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And I'm going to bring them in, and they're actually welted, like a boot. So I'm going to bring them in, and I'm going to have them take the bottoms off and have them put a slick of leather with some Velcro on the bottom. Hopefully they can do it. If they can't do it here in town, or at least in this area, I'm going to bring it down to the Metro, because there is a shoe shop that specializes in bowling shoes, or they will work on people's old bowling shoes, because
Okay.
it's kind of a commonly held belief that the new bowling shoes are shit. You
Yeah.
know? And then I got a pair of again, the numbers are irrelevant. I got a pair of Dexter SST5 LXs, which are kangaroo leather. And those are the exact pair of shoes I had when I was in high school that lasted me 20 fucking years.
Nice.
Yeah. The other pair is a pair like my dad had in the early 90s. He had those for 17, 18 years too.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I was like, and they're leather. They're real leather, and they have a leather lining. The ones that I just got. So
Okay,
they're
nice.
very high quality. Like they're actually
Yeah.
a high quality shoe that happens to be a bowling shoe. Versus the stuff now is all plastic and cloth, and they just suck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
All
one of them
synthetic.
I cracked in half. Yeah, it's all synthetic. Yeah, I cracked the sole of one. I cracked the sole of one in half after like 8 months, and then a second pair I wore through the bottom, pushing. It's just crazy. Yeah. They're just shit, and these are $220 bowling shoes. So I guess I'm going to go back to yesteryear and see if these shoes are as good as I seem to remember that they were. But I'm guessing they are. Like I say, my buddy is a manager at a bowling alley down there. He's wearing shoes that are over 20 years old.
Yep.
And he keeps on just fixing them. So.
Speaking about yesteryear, I read an interesting article on vacation.
Oh.
Well, we were traveling. We did take the subway from Long Island City, where we were staying, all the way down to Coney Island. So it was about, I don't know, hour and a half, 2 hour train ride down there. But it was about the 50-star United States flag. Do you know much about how that came to be?
I do know the story. At least I know a version of the story. I'm not sure if it's true or not.
Okay. What's the version that you've heard?
The version I heard was that back in the 50s, when they added in Alaska and Hawaii, they held a contest for the new flag, and like a middle schooler designed one for a class project, and the teacher said that it stank. So he got so mad that he entered it into the contest. He ended up winning, which I am not sure if that is a true story or not, but that is the version I heard.
Yes, that is the fake story.
So I believed a lie.
But that's also the story that they tell on Wikipedia. And so just for those of you who, and his name was Bob Heft, and it was like 1959 or something, but they had just annexed or given statehood to Alaska, and Hawaii was next. And his story goes that he was like 17 years old, a junior in high school. He had a project where he designed, for the class project, he designed a 50-star, alternating 6 and 5 star rows, right? The one we're familiar with today. Yes. And the teacher gave him like a B-, and he was upset, and he said, "Oh, you should give me a better grade." And the teacher allegedly said, "Well, if you present this to Congress and get this approved as the official 50-star American flag, I'll change your grade." And then the story goes that he sent it off to their congressman or something, and then he went to go work. I think he was doing what was he doing? Some kind of like drafting or engineering type of drawing work. And he claims to have gotten a call. I think it was Eisenhower at the time, president.
Yeah, I think he was 52 to 60.
And Eisenhower told him that his flag design had been chosen, and he wanted Bob Heft to come out to D.C. to unveil it. And Bob reportedly, or self-reportedly, put Ike on hold and went to go ask his boss if he was able to take off that day. And then he went to D.C. and unveiled the 50-star flag. And then he came back and did very kind of mediocrely and unsuccessfully tried to get involved in local politics I think it was Michigan where he was.
And
the trouble
is that story entirely apocryphal?
The trouble is that the flag unveiling did not happen in D.C. The president was, I think, at his house, and it took place in Virginia later that evening. There's no record of Bob Heft ever going there. There's no proof of submission of anything. There was no contest that was actually held. They had a booklet that was put together by, official government people of designs for a 50-star flag. The fact that, Bob's matched one of those in that book. The article I read kind of made it sound like there really wasn't much. The first newspaper article was that they published in his hometown was, student Bob Heft made the first 50-star flag in their town, and it was one of the first 50-star flags to fly in that town or in that state, maybe even. But there were no claims to him of having designed it. So, for a hobby, maybe he made flags or he made a flag,
Sure.
and then he flew it. And then it wasn't till later when, I don't know how it kind of came about. And I think he died in 2008 or 2009. But throughout the course of his life, somehow that story kind of revamped or revitalized, and he just kind of kept adding embellishments to it. And the article seemed to make it believe that, he was a very good salesman, and that maybe he even eventually, by the end of his life, was believing that story himself.
Sure.
But he used to go around, I guess, and give tons of talks to, Girl Scout groups and Boy Scout groups as the, designer of the 50-star flag. And then he would sell autographed copies of the flag, even though autographing the flag is against the United States Flag Code, which we've talked about different tidbits from the Flag Code before. But he would always tell people that he had congressional approval to sign the flag because he designed the 50-star flag, which, in fact, he didn't. But I thought that was very interesting, which led to another interesting tidbit that I didn't know. But Betsy Ross didn't design the very first Stars and Stripes either.
What?
There were two people, and I don't remember their names, one of which was the signer of the Declaration. I think his name was Francis, but he signed the Declaration. He tried to go collect money for his design, but the Congressional, or the Congress, or the whatever it was, said no, because you weren't the only one we consulted on this. And there are other people that you could prove, that they can prove that were there. Betsy Ross wasn't there. Betsy Ross was indeed a flag maker, and they did indeed pay her to manufacture flags for them, but there's no evidence that she gave any input into the design of the flag.
Sure. Interesting.
So I guess there's a whole section of history, or a whole subset of historical study solely around flags and flag design. But yeah, I was pretty blown away. The story about the 50-star flag was interesting, and, how could this guy, claim all of that? And he had pictures with a lot of different politicians, but what people think is it was when all these politicians came to his hometown for the state fair, and he was running for mayor or something. So of course he has pictures because he's in the same clothes in all of the pictures with these people. So that's how they kind of deduced it was on the same day that he met all these people. But I had no idea about the Betsy Ross thing. But they were kind of saying the flag historians, there's a specific name for it. I don't know what it's called off the top of my head. And I don't think I could pronounce it even if I did know. But they said that it was kind of like one of those things similar to our Sacagawea fact that we talked about, where it was kind of like they romanticized and it was women's suffrage and to have a woman design this flag and be the sole designer and maker of Old Glory. And, just it fit the narrative of that time, of that era. Nothing against Betsy at all. Just it's interesting when they do this history and then they do fake history or preferred history or altered history, and then you have whole generations of people believing that Betsy Ross designed the American flag.
Yes, I was muted. I was going to say nothing against Sacagawea either. Sacagawea or Sacagawea. I know they call her Sacagawea on the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara Nation. So.
Oh, okay.
That's why I call her Sacagawea. I think she was Mandan, wasn't she? Pretty sure she was Mandan.
Could be. I know she was kidnapped from her home tribe, but I can't remember if she was kidnapped by the Mandans or kidnapped from the Mandans.
Sure.
But she was one of the West Coast tribes.
Oh, see, the Mandan were located in central North Dakota.
Yeah, they were like one of the first or second tribes that the expedition encountered, I believe.
Yes.
So I think it was, I can't remember. Can't remember the name of the tribe out there.
Which, where?
Way out on the west. Yeah, way out on the west coast. Speaking of indigenous tribes, we went to a very pretentious museum. We did research. I did research before we went. We had one of those city passes, so we could, you just show up and go to whichever museums you want. And everyone was saying, hey, don't go to the Museum of Modern Art. Go to the Whitney Museum of American Art. Go there. And so we went there, and it was the most pretentious bullshit I had seen in a long time. They had, like, all these really dumb questions all over, like, where is the Statue of Liberty? It's like, but they were meant to be, like, thought-provoking or, like, they were like looking down their noses at us. And so then one of them in the stairwells was like, name at least one indigenous tribe, and it's like, okay. Let's get the museum curator out here and let's see who can name more tribes, him or me.
Right. Well, in the cities on the East and West Coast and in our national politics, they pretend like indigenous populations don't fucking exist. So, in the zeitgeist of modern America, unless you live in the rural parts of the country where there are indigenous populations still, you probably don't think about it.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to poke fun at that question. It was just all of the questions were kind of like that, where it was very condescending. You they put them up there because they were like, well, I'm holier than thou because I run an art museum and I'm actually thinking about indigenous tribes, and I'm thinking about where the Statue of Liberty is, and I'm thinking about, and it was like, what? And then it was like, one of the questions was, what's the ultimate law of the land? And Sarah was like, oh, it's, do unto others. And I'm like, it's force. That's what it is. It's force,
Yeah.
Like, there's no other, it's very just like condescending and whatnot. But here was the big kicker for me is they have all these questions on the wall like that are, I guess they could argue they're designed to make you think. But really I felt like they were designed to be condescending, and make you feel guilty and hate yourself. But the earliest American art piece they had was from like 1911.
What?
And I was thinking, I was like, well, you're called the Whitney Museum of American Art. Why don't you have a whole Native American Indigenous Peoples wing? Like, show me what they drew before the white people came here. Like, show me their art. Show me, art from, immigrants in the Bronx or something, like anything. Show me,
Show me photographs of the major mound systems going on along the Mississippi River from the borderline prehistoric Mississippi people.
Yeah, from any American that was here before the white people got here. Like, don't be putting on your wall, name one indigenous tribe, and then not have any indigenous artists. And maybe they did, but certainly not from before white settlers got here or white colonists got here,
I've seen a lot of Incan and Mayan and Navajo art that predates the landing of Columbus. In pictures, not personally.
Yeah. Where's there's that Plains Art Museum in North Dakota?
Yes.
That's a phenomenal art museum.
It is.
That's a great art museum. I was very disappointed in the Whitney. Sarah was too. I mean, they had, like 18 Georgia O'Keeffes. She was born in Wisconsin, which I didn't know. Because they put
18 pictures of flower vaginas, is what you're saying.
Yes. And I can't complain. Like, honestly, I can't complain.
Right. Have you ever seen her nudes?
No.
She did a series of black and white nude photographs back in the day.
Okay.
Now,
go on. Sorry.
I was going to say there was a pretty famous early photographer that did nudes of a lot of famous women back in the day.
That's disgusting. Who is it? So that's disgusting. Who is it?
Yeah, I know, right?
No. But so they had some George O'Keeffe. They had an Andy Warhol, which was cool. They had a lot of they did have a lot of immigrants who were born, say in Germany but they were all kind of like born in white Anglo-Saxon areas, and then they died in Queens or something.
People that are in New York love the smell of their own farts. It's insane.
Yeah. But there were some that died in California or something. But, the immigrants they had were modern. They're all modern. And I guess I was kind of, I knew there would be some modern because just of the style of the building. But to call yourself the Museum of American Art and limit yourself to 1910 and newer.
Did they have any grants? Like American Gothic or
I didn't see one. Apparently they had, well, and I don't know how it works because we were talking to our friends who picked us up from the airport, and they said, I thought they had, the Nighthawks, like the diners painting.
That's a beautiful painting. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, it's a great painting. I didn't see it there, but we hit 3 floors, and then we were kind of gagging on their pretension, so we left. But they had the Warhol. They had a very small pop art wing, and actually that's where my favorite painting from their gallery was, and it was called Trademark with 8 Spotlights, and it was this really huge painting of the 20th Century Fox logo. But it was really crazy and well done, I thought. But and then they had one local guy, I think his name was Hopper or something, and he painted. No, it wasn't. I don't think it was Dennis.
No, Dennis Hopper's the actor.
Yeah, the actor. It was some other Hopper, I think, but he does a lot of cinematically framed paintings.
Oh.
So that was pretty cool. So it wasn't a complete loss, but it just was fairly pretentious for, and they had 7 floors of art or 5 floors of art or something, and each wing they spaced the paintings out as far as they could, it felt like. And so I was kind of we're getting taken advantage of here somewhere.
There's a shitty Charlie Sheen movie that was made in the early 2000s, and it was based in
only
New York
one.
City. Yeah, I know, right? But something sticks out to me in it where he's playing Charlie Sheen in the movie, of course. but he goes to an art show in New York, and the artist was shoving paint up his ass and squirting it onto canvas.
God.
And that is what I think of when I think of liberal arts people in large cities.
Yeah, I think of Maude from Big Lebowski. When she's flying naked on the zip line and just throwing the paint.
Yep.
There's a lot of like really interesting stories behind a lot of that stuff. And actually, I was not a huge fan of Andy Warhol, and I thought he was full of crap. And I went to Tate Modern in London, who incidentally had a phenomenal collection, and they had a special exhibit, which I paid extra for, all on Salvidor Dali, and it was amazing. And they had all of his like films that he helped out with, and all of his sketches and paintings and stuff. But it wasn't until I went and saw an Andy Warhol in person, the Campbell's soup cans that he like recreated, and I saw those in person, and kind of read the story on them, and then I was like, shit, this guy's good, you know. But it's one of those things, like you can see art on the internet, you can see pictures of it, and you can kind of like know what it is, but sometimes when you're standing there in front of it, that's when you get it.
Right.
Or I
went to see the Chuck Close traveling exhibit when it was at the Walker.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was kind of, I did like Chuck Close, don't get me wrong, but it was very impressive in person. And a lot of that art is too.
Well, and he still has one at the Minneapolis Institute of Art, which is a free art museum, and their collection is great. It's astonishing, actually.
Frank there, I'm pretty sure.
They have Frank.
Yeah.
They've got some Picasso. They have some Salvador Dali, some Maxfield Parrish. They've got more American art than the Whitney has, I would say.
Oh, probably. We went there when we went to see Primus earlier this year. We swung by the MIA.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's easy at the MIA there to get lost in like their Chinese pottery wing, and it goes on forever, and you're like, fuck, I can't look at another Chinese pottery bowl. I need to leave. But if you can avoid that section, unless you're hugely into Chinese pottery, everything else is really well done there.
Yeah, they have some pretty impressive work. I know they had a lot of medieval tapestries and stuff that I remember seeing. I was like, oh, man.
So I'm not sure. I think we're about halfway. Or at least
I'm a little less than halfway myself.
I'm a little less, too. It's getting close. I don't know if I've noticed as significant a taste change in this one.
I haven't, but it is almost overwhelming with how strong it is.
It's a very strong cigar.
It's good. But
it's very good.
Puffer,
it's very strong.
Slow.
It's got great airflow through it. I'm always I'm amazed every time I take a puff off of it how much smoke I have coming back out.
Right.
Which is great, I think. But yeah, I haven't noticed a very significant taste change yet.
So far, I would say I like the Connecticut wrapper better.
I would concur.
Yeah.
This is still an excellent cigar, though.
It is still a very good cigar. Yep. No, I like it. Have you been watching the news?
I've been on vacation, my man.
Thank God. Thank God. So disappointing.
I don't. So what's been going on then? I guess is the question.
I'm just disappointed that I live in like the nether regions of Minnesota.
That's by choice, though.
I know that, but my congressman Pete Stabber is just trying to kill the future of America. You know what I mean? Such a piece of shit.
Well, with a name like Stabber, he's got to kill something, and if it's not going to be hookers at the kegerator at the Capitol building.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, what the fuck? The House held votes. They're kind of straw votes on passing a national birth control law and passing a national gay marriage law. And of course, that piece of shit voted against both. You know, the guy down in southern Minnesota, was his name Mark Emmer?
So he voted. He voted against.
He voted against making condoms legal
okay.
in all 50 states, and he
Okay.
voted against fucking. Well, it wasn't just condoms; it was a lot of other stuff too.
Well,
But
yeah.
fundamentally, it's like birth control, right? Like,
Yeah.
come on. We don't have. It's shocking that a Supreme Court decision is what made birth control legal nationally. And then, of course, the gay marriage thing, which only 10 Republicans voted to legalize, nationally legalize birth control, but 50 of them voted to legalize gay marriage. Interestingly enough,
That's strange.
So, it is.
So I guess I don't know. Maybe I know the answer to this. Why don't they want contraceptives? Are they really doing the Monty Python every sperm is sacred thing?
You know, when you look at the national polls, which I've been following it, somewhere around 2% of the country believes that contraception should be banned. So,
well, 2%, then we should make sure that contraception is banned to pacify that 2%.
I know. And that's what I don't understand. It's like, really? I mean, especially up north, right?
Well, even if you're
this is not a very conservative area.
Yeah.
People up here are not liberal in the sense of like city liberalism, but there's not a lot of crazy Christians, and there's not a lot of, traditional hardcore conservative types anywhere. There's a lot of Trumpers, but I think a lot of those people are more trolls than anything else, because they'll vote for like Democratic governors.
Well, those are the people. Those are the people that vote Democrat governors because they like the benefits of the Democratic Party, but truly deep down they resonate with Trump and what Trump stands for. And my dad even did that too, because he used to work in Minnesota, but he lived in Wisconsin. So in Wisconsin, where he lived, he'd vote Republican so that his land tax was low, but he'd vote Democrat in Minnesota so that his work benefits were better.
Right. So
because he works
it's
for
just
the
a very
state.
interesting paradigm.
So preventing a pregnancy aside, these people that want to ban contraceptives, what's their plan for STDs and things?
Oh, they don't give a fuck. That's like the Catholic
I know they
Church,
don't.
And they're
well, and they don't care because any sex outside of marriage is a sin. And so if you get AIDS, why do they care?
Well, we've talked about this before. A lot of political positions that are held by both parties, but a lot of political positions that are held are not based on any facts or information or reality. It's like the childish notions of people that are not directly affected by what they're complaining about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, we talked, the government's not supposed to make moral decisions. They're not like the end all be all on morality.
No.
But they shouldn't be, and that was your argument. And if contraception is moral or not shouldn't be the government's call. It should be, do the citizens want it or not? And if 2% of the citizens don't want it, it must go that a bigger percentage of Americans do want contraceptives. Right. And therefore, they should be legal everywhere. Like it shouldn't even be an issue.
It's kind of like Texas right now is talking about enforcing their sodomy laws again.
We talked about that the last time we smoked a Howitzer.
Yeah, and it's like, I hate the position that Republicans are for small government. Like, no, you fuckers aren't. You guys are for huge government. It's just a different style of big government.
Yeah. A Christian big government is what they want.
Well, there's a lot of Christian nationalism in certain parts of the country, for sure.
Yeah.
Which, like I say, it's not prevalent where I live, which is what makes the Stabber's position on both of those issues so bizarre. You know what I mean?
So bringing it back to vacations a little bit, but it's going to tie into this conversation. When we were in New York, we smelled weed everywhere, right?
Sure.
Everywhere. We were on. We were riding the subway, and this let's just say gentleman. He sat down and he whipped out a big cigar, and I was excited because I was like, "Oh yeah, okay. Maybe I should have printed up a bunch of like nice ashes stickers and plastered them all over the city, for our podcast." And I was going to talk to him about our podcast, but he pulled out his safety razor, split that bitch down the center, dumped all the tobacco on the floor of the subway car, and he packed that thing full of bud.
Sure.
And apparently, I guess it's legal to like possess and smoke weed in New York, but I don't know if it's legal to sell it. But all of the smoke shops there sell weed. So
interesting.
It's one of those things where it's the de facto versus de jure, like the written law versus what's law in practice.
Sure, isn't that like 18-year-olds are legally allowed to possess and smoke tobacco? They're just not legally allowed to buy it or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know they changed it to 21. I think here, didn't they?
I think that's national now.
National, but that's just buying it, not consuming it or using it.
I don't think
right?
so. I think that you're legally allowed to consume it at 18.
Okay. So I mean, it's interesting because they can make laws, but then do they enforce those laws? And then that's the question. Why did they even make the law in the first place, or why wouldn't they go all the way? Because and that happened here too, didn't they? Legalize edibles here in Minnesota because the Republicans didn't bother to read the package.
Yes, they legalized cannabis-based edibles instead of
CBD or whatever.
Hemp-based edibles that were already legal.
Yeah.
Yep. So. But they limit it to 5 grams or 5 milligrams of gummy or something like that.
A serving, yeah. Which is fine. I mean, other states that have legal weed and have legal dispensaries and stuff, some of those are 5 per serving, some are 10, some are 15 per serving. It just kind of depends on the state.
Sure. I'm not allowed to imbibe anyway, so...
No. I never said you were or whatever.
Benefits.
I just thought it was interesting because we were there and we were like, is weed legal here? And my initial search was that no, it's not legal to sell anyway.
Sure.
And then it's like, well, why are all these places selling it? Well, it's legal for everyone to own and smoke, so why wouldn't they sell it? And why wouldn't selling it be legal? You're already most of the way there. Just
oh, it's so bizarre. And the marijuana laws are kind of like an example of how the state system can only work so far when the national government already has a rule about it. You know what I mean? It's where, I don't know. It's bizarre. Very bizarre. We're going to end up being that way with a lot of things, I think. It's going to get worse before it gets better, I have the feeling.
Yeah, I'm with you there on that. I think even with the contraceptives, because you've got, I guess even with abortion, even now, like certain companies are saying, hey, we'll pay for you to cross state lines to go get an abortion for any of our employees, or, we'll make sure that's covered under our thing. And the same will probably be true with contraceptives. Like, what's to say that the business can't hand out contraceptives? Right. Or what's to say they can't? I mean, I'm sure somebody could object, but it's just like why make it harder than it has to be?
It's just like all this other stuff. These laws really only affect poor people because a middle to upper income person can just order contraceptive online and have it delivered to their fucking house. And there's no way that the post office is going to.
Well, the post office isn't going to know as long as like Amazon doesn't say, hey, we can't deliver to your state. Because they do that with some things, like this product can't be delivered to, like Delaware or something.
It would be an Adam and Eve. I mean, I think they're based in Nevada or something.
Okay.
Right? I mean, they don't care. They'll send it anywhere. or eBay.
And some of these like private companies, they're not ever turning their stuff over. Even as much as you hate Apple, not you personally, like I just in general, people, as much as people hate Apple in general, they've repeatedly refused to decrypt encrypted iMessages.
Yes, they have.
And that's in their best interest. They're not doing it because they love our freedom, but that's just in their best interest because they don't want to have to deal with all that shit. And so the best solution they could come up with was, well, let's encrypt all of our iMessages and then say we can't decrypt them. And then there you go. Like they're encrypted. Nobody else can read them except the intended recipient, and the person who sent it. So
Amazon would comply. They've already admitted that they turn over Nest video footage to the police when requested. So
yeah, they would comply, but they've got a monetary interest in complying. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, Bezos is getting tens of billions of dollars of subsidies from the federal government, so they're going to comply.
And some other big players might comply. Some big players might try and fight it,
Oh, you know it.
But there's always the cash. Like, hey, I sold this, but they paid cash. I don't know who it was. We don't check IDs, that sort of thing.
Well, that's kind of like Pornhub there for a quick minute was hosting regular content when YouTube started cracking down on their video content, And a few big channels moved over to Pornhub.
Yeah, because you could upload anything. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. There's a channel that I watched called Forgotten Weapons, and he moved all of his content over to Pornhub.
Okay.
He still posts on YouTube, but he also posted on Pornhub now, too. And it's like very benign. He's like a weapons dealer that deals with antique weapons. So he'll get like a really cool, weird 500-year-old gun that he'll do a little episode on so people can learn a little bit about whatever kind of weird German flintlock blunderbuss or whatever.
Yeah. Here's something that's a pain in the ass to shoot. It was designed by somebody drunk off their ass who'd never fired a gun before, but here it is anyway.
Oh, yeah. There's all kinds of weird stuff.
And a lot of those antique guns, well, if, Pawn Stars, if that's to be believed, they have to kind of be decommissioned before you can sell them even in a lot of cases. So, like a lot of those things aren't even operational.
Right. Yeah. And the weirder the better,
the weirder the better. My grandpa had I think it was a double barrel shotgun that was held together. The barrel was held onto the stock because it was what my grandpa's dad's dad used or something. It was an antique, but it was like held on with like baling wire or something. Like they had used it for so long, and they passed it down, and it was like the barrel was held on with that, and I think it was a twisted iron barrel. So you put one modern round through it, and the thing's going to explode because it's twisted iron. It's not a single solid piece like most modern barrels are today.
Sure.
So it's not. It's functional. You could shoot something through it, but it's one of those pieces we have in the family where this is an antique. This is not to ever fire because it will kill you or someone else or severely maim you. Like this is not something, and even the oldest safely operable gun couldn't probably handle most modern ammunition. You'd have to not.
Well, I was going to say, as you know, I'm a shotgunner, was a shotgunner as a hobby. And even guns that are 30, 40 years old can't handle a lot of modern ammunition.
Yeah.
They're just not intended for the purpose. The barrels are too thin.
Yep.
They can handle weak lead load and maybe bismuth, but you can't shoot tungsten or steel or anything that's high-powered, high brass load. You certainly can't shoot a high brass load through it. So. Well,
and a lot of the places you would want to go and, shoot your shotgun if you were using it for hunting purposes, you can't shoot the lead or the other things. You need to use the environmentally friendly loads if you're hunting
Right.
like wetlands specifically.
Wetlands and public lands. It also depends on the county.
Yeah.
And there's like local regulations that everybody has to follow. So it all depends. I always shoot high brass at animals anyway. But that's a personal preference. High brass meaning high velocity. I like to shoot high velocity loads. So,
I've heard that about you.
Yeah, I like to make sure that they're dead. Nothing worse than like wounding an animal out in the field.
Yeah.
So
Well,
as far as I'm concerned,
clean shots and the right load
right.
go a long way.
Even when I was pigeon hunting, or not pigeon, yeah, well, pigeon hunting and dove hunting, I'd shoot high brass at them. So, but also good practice for later in the season, I guess.
Yeah.
Not that this is a hunting show.
No, but it's also not a hunting
Right.
show.
That's true.
It'd be fun to shoot some trap or skeet with you.
Yes. Well, I got several throwers, and I even got an electronic one. So we definitely got the setup here to do it.
Yep.
Whenever you come up, we can throw many down range. I don't know how many pigeons I have anymore. I used to have barrels and barrels of them out there. I'm not sure how many I have now.
Oh, yeah.
But I haven't bought promo loads for years either because they've been so damn expensive. But
Everything's
seems
been
like the price
expensive.
might not come down.
I don't think for a while. I think we got to go through the crash first.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in the next couple of years.
Yeah. It's like every month, like, what was it, last month? It was like, oh, yeah, eight something, the highest inflation in 40 years. And then I think this month, or, the previous month, was like, hey, the highest inflation of over 40 years is 9 something percent, and it's like, oh, my God.
And from what I understand, even that's a manipulation because the index they used 40 years ago isn't the same index we use now. And of course, it's manipulated to make the inflation rate appear to be lower than it actually is.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like they redefined depression back in 2008. So they didn't have to have the second Great Depression.
Yeah, they called it a recession, right? It was like the Great Recession.
Yeah, the Great Recession.
Which somehow sounds better than Great Depression.
I guess so.
I mean, I guess a little bit, but we've been depressed ever since, I'll tell you that.
Well, yeah. Certain parts of the economy have been fine. It all depends on where you're at.
I was just talking mental health. Like, everybody's been depressed since then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I suppose so. There's some new research showing that depression is not necessarily caused by abnormal serotonin levels either.
Okay.
So all this medicating that we've been doing is kind of pointless. So
yeah, we were talking about that on our vacation too, a little bit. Because there's a lot of like depression meds out there that if you're taking them, because the heat was so extreme when we were in New York, that you're not supposed to take those meds and be in extreme heat. And
interesting,
which led to kind of like the conversation of, I'm not a doctor, but our thought was kind of like, some people need meds. If you need meds, there's no shame in that. You need what you need. That's life. You need certain things. But we were talking more about the healthcare system and how the healthcare system's final goal is, let's get you on this med for life, not let's use this med for 6 months to a year and use that to transition you to a more manageable plan without meds. To work through whatever issues you're needing to work through and get you off the meds. Like, the goal of healthcare isn't to get you off the meds. The goal is to get you on the meds and keep you on the meds. Like in our country, anyway.
Right. The goal of the medical system is to make profit off of sickness and death.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why it costs so fucking much.
Yeah, and why our healthcare sucks.
It doesn't suck if you have money.
Nothing sucks
or
if you have
very good
money.
insurance, which is kind of the same thing. Well, fun fact or fun story. So when Obamacare came into effect, I was a traveling electrician, and I was classified as having a Cadillac healthcare plan. So instead of paying the Cadillac healthcare plan insurance, my union decided just to make our insurance worse.
Well, of course.
Of course, right? So we switched over to like an 80-20 Medicare plan instead of what we had. Yeah. And so I had to do a blood test after Obamacare. Then it cost me $1,800 out of pocket to have a blood test during a physical. Because it was an 80-20 with, they raised the deductible up to some insane amount. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah.
But obviously it was more than $1,800. At the time, there was only one blood lab that was approved by our insurance in the state of North Dakota, and it was in Bismarck.
Yep. That's the other thing, too, is with my company, we've gone through a couple acquisitions, and we used to be able to go to any pharmacy we wanted. And so I always went to Walgreens because every town has a Walgreens. And Walgreens, the pharmacy is open 24 hours in a lot of Walgreens locations. And we got the new healthcare plan with the new bigger company. And they said you can only fill your prescriptions at CVS. CVS is the only place you can get prescriptions filled. And there might be people that like CVS, but CVS kind of sucks ass. And they're not open 24 hours with their pharmacy. So you have to like bend your schedule around their schedule and then try and deal with CVS, and it's like just, you're already not paying for the drugs that I want to take, because I'm diabetic. Since I was 4, there's a long-term insulin that I really like, but guess what? It's not on the formulary. And so I can't take it unless I want to pay for it out of pocket, which is expensive as hell. And the person who developed synthetic insulin that all diabetic people take nowadays wanted everybody to pay $1 because it's so cheap to make. It's super cheap to make. And he's like, I don't want to make money off of it. Just charge everybody $1 for whatever insulin they need. It's inexpensive. It literally costs like a fraction of a penny to make. And now to get like one box of insulin or, like 1 month's supply is like $400. Fucking dollars. And it's like, what in the fuck are you guys doing? Like, I don't know how they got the patent on it, or they like somehow forced the patent out of this guy's hands, and now they're charging out the ass for it. And so I can't take the insulin that I want, even though they're still going to get paid the same amount, the insurance company and everybody, like they're still paying out the ass for the insulin that I'm currently taking, but I can't take the insulin I want to take, and I have to go to CVS to get it. I can't go to a different pharmacy. So even if I, was a supporter of a mom and pop pharmacy, I couldn't go there. I only can go to CVS.
Yeah, our medical system is fucked. I thought for sure that our best chance to get some sort of universal coverage would have been the pandemic. But
yeah, that would have been a great rally point.
Well, you would think that it would be readily apparent to everybody that we need to do something.
That's the problem, is it's readily apparent to everybody under the age of 80. But all of our politicians are over 80, so they don't care.
Right. That's kind of like the border crisis, too,
Yeah.
Like the options, I just don't understand why the clear solution isn't just done. The solution's very simple. It's just they would rather have it be a political football instead of doing something.
Which crisis is this again?
Well, we have an illegal immigration. We've had an illegal immigration problem in this country forever. And instead of creating a, green card system that made sense with our farming economy and with our construction economy, we just pretend like it's not a problem. And it gets worse and worse for the American worker as a result. I've worked directly with illegal immigrants, and having illegal immigrants on a job site definitely lowers the working conditions for everybody else, you know. And it makes a great threat for the managers to, you know, they're like, we'll just replace you all with illegal workers if you don't do X, Y, and Z. That's technically against the law. And people will comply most of the time, you know. That's a great threat.
So, are you pro or anti, like, immigrant workers then? Or, like, illegal alien workers?
I'm just a realist, right? We as a country use immigrant labor a lot. So whether I'm for it or against it is kind of irrelevant. Like, I'm for people of all, you know, stripes succeeding in America. So I want those people to be protected. And
I guess it's multifaceted. So, like,
right, it's a very complicated issue. I'm against illegal workers in the sense that I don't think that there should be anybody hired illegally. But I think the solution to that is coming up with a green card system that would allow people to get temporary
that would make them legal
permission,
right?
That would
like
make them legal workers.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
To, like,
I mean,
send them back. Like,
no,
you're not like a send them back where they came from.
No, these people have jobs. I mean,
yes.
If you look at a town in Minnesota that I visited, my cousins live over there, Long Prairie, Minnesota.
Okay.
There's a slaughterhouse. Well, pretty much everybody that works at that slaughterhouse is Mexican, like born in Mexico, Mexican. And they have a lot of farms, and they have a lot of Mexican farm workers there too. And if it wasn't for those people, Long Prairie, Minnesota would not exist. There would be nobody there because all of the indigenous white population left for the cities. You know, they all left because there's nothing there. And the people that took those jobs should have rights. And they get, by the way, the ICE bus farmers hiring illegal immigrants all the time. In that area, it's very common. My cousin complains about it constantly, which he's like kick all the illegals out of the states. It's like, no, dude, they're doing a job that's important, and they need to get protected. But the corporations don't want those people to be protected. They want to be able to abuse them. So that's what I think is happening, is that the businesses they want to keep their illegal workforce because they don't have to pay a minimum wage and they don't have to follow any laws. And
they don't have to put them on their workers' compensation plan.
Right. They don't have to do any of that stuff. And it's like, that's bullshit for them, for like the workers themselves, you know? It's crap.
I always had like a moral quandary almost. And it was really weird. And we talked about and I think this is true, but we talked about Ayn Rand and like how into her that I was.
Oh, yes.
And actually, the other day I went and got rid of not all my Ayn Rand books, but about half of them. Like, I kept the fiction ones, the novels.
Sure.
But I got rid of like the, like her treatises and like journals and like whatever. Like, I don't need that shit. Because a lot of like her stuff kind of comes through with the novels anyway, the fictionalized novels, and most of that stuff in the novels is digestible and it's okay. It's not really any different than what's the series called? It's like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The C.S. Lewis, because that's all like Christian mythology basically, with heavy Christian overtones and undertones and whatnot. But but that's still, it's an enjoyable book regardless. The C.S. Lewis stuff. Like, hey, it's a talking lion, cool. The kids get to go on a magical adventure.
Right. I love the Chronicles of Narnia, and I also love the Space Trilogy by C.S. Lewis.
I haven't read the Space Trilogy. I read.
Recommend.
I read
I recommend.
I read the Screwtape Letters by him, and that was very interesting.
I have not read those yet. I want to.
I would highly recommend that too. In college, one of my high school friends and I, we kind of did a kind of like a reading club where she'd recommend like a book, then we'd read it together and talk about it afterwards, and then I'd recommend a book and stuff. And so, but of course, she knew that I was. And I wasn't atheist at the time, but she knew I was like struggling with my Lutheran upbringing. But the C.S. Lewis Screwtape Letters is very interesting, and he was a lot more open-minded than one would think. in that based on some other stuff you might hear about him. And I think that might be true of a lot of people. Like a lot of people might be more open-minded than you think, based on what the masses say, especially with some of the flag stuff that we talked about earlier at the start of the episode.
Right.
But that's interesting. But anyway, back to immigration. And Ayn Rand basically was saying, it was either her or her, what do you call it when they carry on the mantle of the philosophy, that person. But they're saying that open borders was kind of the answer. But their thing was like, America is the greatest country on earth, which it's probably not. It depends on what you're judging it based on, right? But
well, the word greatest is very loaded.
Well, it's loaded, but their opinion was America's the greatest country. Of course, people want to come here, and who are we to say that they can't? And why would you make the greatest country and then not let everybody come here?
Right.
So it's kind of like it was one of those weird, like, they were being very logical despite some of the other bits of their philosophy, and it was like, well, I guess that makes sense. Like, why do we care? But I mean, I know why we care, because of like voting and all sorts of other things. But everyone here that's not a member of an indigenous tribe is an immigrant to here, so at least at some point, somewhere along their family lines. And it's very interesting and that's why you have the separations in New York City, because, you have a Chinatown, because that's where the first Chinese immigrants settled, or had to settle, or were forced to live. And that's where the rest of them then went. But now it's like, you go to New York City, oh, you have to go see Chinatown. Well, what makes those immigrants better than the immigrants from Mexico that are being held in cages? Like, I don't understand. It doesn't make sense if you think about it, like, historically.
What I find so amusing about that is that Biden is doing the same thing that Trump did, and Trump is doing the same thing that Obama did, and so on and so forth. They all
all the way back.
It's been this way since Operation Wetback back in the 50s. Even before then, if you really want to get into the Mexican Civil War and how Pancho Villa tried to get the United States involved because of politics down there. And it's been this way forever, especially down in the Southwest. And it's dumb. It's so stupid. What's not stupid is, like I say, I've worked on many job sites with illegal workers, and it is definitely not good to have illegal workers working with you anywhere, ever. It is bad for everybody involved.
But now the question is it bad because of the illegal workers, or is it bad because of the company that is employing those illegal workers?
It's bad because of the company, of course. It's not like those individual human beings' fault that, they're being a tool in the exploitation game, And I've had heated arguments with illegal aliens on job sites over certain things. And, everybody's going to do what they're going to do. I got into a fight one time with a guy because he pretended like he couldn't speak English. And he was taking my JLG, like a 60-foot lift. We were doing this huge wire pull way up in the air. And I needed the damn thing, and it was like 35 below zero.
Yeah.
And he pretended like he didn't speak English, and he started to speak English very quickly once I started losing my shit. So like anybody else, you're going to use everything to your advantage.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're being exploited, and you're being exploited just by the fact that the company is exploiting them,
Right. Oh, yeah, and that particular company, I know at least one of their guys died on that job. But at the end of the project, they're like, oh, this electrical company had 3 injuries and this many man hours, and we had 0 and this many man hours. And it was like, dwarfed our man hours.
Yeah.
And in the safety meeting, it was like, are you fucking joking me? One of your guys fucking died. But because that guy was illegal, never got recorded.
Yeah, it doesn't count
right?
then.
Doesn't count. I mean, the guy was covered in blood, and they carried him out on a stretcher and threw him in the back of a fucking pickup. Never
Yeah,
saw him again. So
I'm
if he
sure he was
didn't die, he
fine.
was seriously injured.
They put him back with his family, and
Right. Oh, he got hit by an excavator.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm sure.
I'm guessing he died. You know.
I'm sure he's enjoying, free Thanksgiving meals on behalf of the company. You know, the company pays for a turkey to be delivered to him. He's certainly not dead. He was tired that day for sure, but
right. Well, that's what I mean by it's not good for those people, and it's not good for me either. It's bad for everybody other than the company that hires them.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand why they want to make the wage up here versus down in Mexico. I get that. And I'd do the same thing if I was in their position, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, now it's not a big a deal because, like, this is the first time that the euro and dollar have been almost 1-to-1 for a long time.
Right. Yeah, that helps
like the exchange rate.
That helps out Mexicans a lot. And South Americans.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it does or doesn't. I'm just saying, like, that, you know, those people that say, well, America's the best and, you know, the dollar's the strongest. And it's like, I don't know if the dollar's stronger now or worse now. I mean, I know the euro used to be a lot better, but Europe's having their own issues too, so.
Right, and that's a lot of these are self-inflicted wounds. You know, I wanted to bring up, so for the second time in the last several years, I listened to a Vladimir Putin speech. And for the second time, listening to all this propaganda, it's all propaganda, obviously. But I was embarrassed that our government was less competent than theirs, and I wished that we had a leadership that was as competent as theirs.
As Russia's or as Ukraine's?
As Russia's. You know, as Vladimir. I don't want Vladimir Putin to be president or anybody like him, but he is a competent politician, and it makes me sad that it's just so sad. You know, how can the quote-unquote enemies of America have these competent politicians and we have just shit leadership everywhere, you know, every level of the federal government just sucks. You know.
No argument from me there.
Yeah. It's embarrassing. The first one was when Trump was president and Vladimir Putin did an interview with a little blind girl that got injured in an accident. And he was so eloquent and everything, and it was like a great bit of propaganda. And I'm like, man, our president could never do that. And this last one he was, you know, basically telling the truth about American policies. Which, again, it's like, well, the government's so fucking incompetent that we write the propaganda for him. He doesn't need to lie. All the time.
He doesn't even really need a spin team for some of the shit that we're doing these days.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't need a spin team. He just needs to tell the truth. It's like, well, how shitty is that?
It's like our politicians should be telling us the truth before any other country can learn enough about it to know how bad we are, you know? Like, that's what we need.
Right. You know, it's embarrassing in many ways. It embarrasses me. But, which is probably why that vote on contraception, like, that bothered me. Like, really?
Yeah.
You guys can't even get together on this issue? Like, this is not a problem, right? Like,
well,
they sell condoms and vending machines at bowling alleys, for God's sakes. You know, like,
I have yet to figure out why, but I guess.
You know, it's just a tradition. It's just a tradition. I love the condiment machine at bowling alleys. I always check them out every time I go to a new one.
Yeah, hey, is there a new French tickler? What's new in condom technology? Is there something I need to be introducing?
Oh, I like the novelty part where it's like, you know, foolproof birth control, and it's like a piece of paper that says put between your legs and keep there, you know, shit like that. You know, stupid shit. It's great.
Yeah.
For 75 cents, I can have a chuckle.
Yep.
But I don't know why they sell like Giorgio Armani cologne at bowling alleys. That's always gotten me. A lot of them sell cologne in the men's room.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, people must buy it, right?
I'm guessing that they do.
When
I
my
don't know.
this isn't cologne related, but it's similar because when my brother was here, he came to visit for about a week, and we were riding our bikes around. And one day we were coming back to the house here, and they were within like 2 blocks. There was like 3 or 4 ice cream trucks, and we were sitting there like, I don't know, with the price of gas, I don't know how profitable an ice cream truck is, and for there to be
Right.
3 or 4 of them in the neighborhood at the same time, like I don't know. I don't know how they make their money, but they were all here. Doesn't make any sense. Like they can't be selling that much ice cream.
I know that the fair food guys make a lot of goddamn money.
Yeah,
That
but they don't
stuff
have to.
they
They don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And they buy the super cheap stuff from the grocery store or whatever, cook it up, heat it up, and then they charge 5, 10 times what it's worth.
Well, they deep fry it.
Well, yeah,
And that's a great combination. Makes you sick, but it's good
small
going
price to pay for deep fried food.
in. Right. Absolutely. Sarah bought a lot of band shirts when we were at Rockfest,
Okay.
and I was looking at them, and the T-shirts are like Gildan brand.
Oh
They're like
yeah,
the cheapest Chinese shit, but they have the
yeah,
screen print of the band, so now they're worth $40.
yep.
They couldn't even get a tagless, decent shirt to put their fucking screen print on.
Well, and that's the same. A lot of the shirts and a lot of the New York merchandise in New York City is crazy expensive. But we went down to Coney Island, and all the shirts were like $12 or less. And so we're like, holy shit, that's nice. Nice to have a place that's not crazy overpriced. And of all the places Coney Island could be, because it's an amusement park and a beach, so
Right. That's
so that
interesting.
was refreshing to have like a normal price T-shirt,
Yes.
complete with
Well,
the screen printing and everything. So
right. If and when I go, I'll keep that in mind. They have crazy knife laws in New York too.
oh yeah, they do. I saw some like for some of the attractions, like the blade has to be it's a length and a width requirement and everything. So
Length and width, and it cannot be opened with one hand.
yeah,
Which I've seen videos of the cops taking like a Leatherman and grabbing the blade and flicking it open with the handle and arresting people.
okay.
So like a buck 110 or
Like
something.
it's not intended to be opened single-handedly, just
Yeah, it's
because you
intended to be
can
open
do
two-handed,
it.
but it can physically be done. So they'll still arrest you. Yeah, it's insane. Like that's gonna help people.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in Minneapolis, it's illegal to carry a razor technically. So like all the construction workers with their razor knives, pocket
Oh
pulley
yeah.
razor knives, technically against the law in the city of Minneapolis. How stupid.
Yeah.
Which is
I don't know
whatever.
how often they enforce that though here, but
I'm guessing against somebody of my complexion, never.
yeah,
I'm guessing against somebody that is differently looking, probably more often than you would like to think.
probably.
Probably, unless they're wearing construction boots. A lot of that is situational too.
If
But
they just unloaded their clips into somebody's back, it was because of the razor knife they had.
right, well, that's the. Have you heard the defense of the I-60 or the 169 shooting?
No.
I don't know if you've heard about that. So there was like a gangland style killing of like a local football sports ball coach, like just some random dude,
All
and
right.
these two gentlemen shot. Somebody in the car shot this guy just driving down the road. Had nothing to do with anything. And their defense is that you can't prove which one of them did it.
Well, there you go, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's a great defense. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but very interesting. So depressing, but that's life. I'm about 3/4 of the way through with this cigar right now.
I've got like 2 inches left.
I got a little bit more than that. It's okay. I mean, it's good.
It's good. It's awfully strong for how big it is, I think.
It's very strong, very slow smoking because it's so strong. You got to really.
Yeah.
I have to lay off of it. Definitely something that I would smoke in a communal setting if I was going to chit chat.
Yep.
I could do that.
I vastly prefer the Connecticut wrapper on this Howitzer.
So do I.
It still hasn't really changed flavor for me either.
No, it's just dark and strong.
Yeah.
Which is all right.
It's fine.
Yeah. They used to sell the cigar. It was like Lumberjack Land or Lumberland, some kind of shitty ass amusement park in the woods on a lake that was around years ago. I had never bought a cigar from there because I was too young, but they were huge. They were like ridiculously huge. And I always wondered if that was a real cigar or if it was just a novelty. And that's kind of what this reminds me of.
Yeah. I mean, this one's good. The tobacco
good,
is good quality, but it's bigger than I would want with this strength.
Right. That's what I mean. It's kind of like a novelty because it is so big and so strong. Not bad, just overwhelming to an extent. Even for me, it's overwhelming. So. Which tells me that the average, I would call myself an average cigar smoker. I'm not like some Superman or anything, but I like darker cigars most of the time. And I
like darker cigars most of the time, but I also prefer the spicy ones. And the Connecticut wrapper had a really nice flavor change, halfway through and then towards the end.
Right.
And that's maybe not, maybe complex is better than just brute strength, I guess. So I guess I'd recommend the Connecticut Howitzer.
Over this, for sure.
Yeah.
I would recommend the Asylum 13 over this as well.
Yeah, me as well.
Yeah. So.
But I think that can be it for the episode. We'll finish these up, but those are kind of our thoughts on this cigar. And thanks for joining us.
Yes. Everybody have a profitable week.